So, it's already August. Oh boy. Wow. Okay. To give you some idea of what an inscrutably unique disaster the Dark Tower is, the closest cinematic comparison I can think of in terms of both aesthetics, tone, and relative quality is the Mortal Instruments City of Bones, which, if you don't remember it because you're a person, was a young adult fantasy movie nobody saw, based on a series of books no one I can find seems to have read, that has now been turned into a TV show which I assume exists. And yeah, that's where we are. The Dark Tower is so bad that the thing it most reminds me of is another movie that was so bad you don't remember that it happened. Now, however, I make that joke, and yet, no, I have not myself actually read Stephen King's The Dark Tower series, a run of fantasy, horror, supernatural, western hybrid novels that started out as essentially King's Lord of the Rings, and ultimately grew into a massive, sprawling meta-narrative that not only encompasses 8 gigantic main series books, multiple spin-offs, multiple canonical Marvel Comics spin-offs, a video game, and sundry and character mythological connections that tie all of that and damn near all of Stephen King's other books together into a singular whole thing. Yeah, haven't found the time. Which means I can't tell you how it stands up as an adaptation. What I can tell you is that the people making the movie either managed or were willing to compress all of that down to a 90-minute, not terribly expensive-looking action movie in which a misunderstood boy who is actually magic and special must help a good guy defeat a bad guy to prevent the end of the world. No, really, that's all that's going on here. I even looked it all up, and that's really pretty much the gist of what made it into the movie. Some of you seem very upset. I assume you must be fans. Sorry. But alright, there is a mythos at play here, sort of. It's just incredibly thinly sketched. The basic idea is that the Dark Tower is this big, dark tower somewhere that's basically holding together an unknown number of different universes, of which we see exactly 2, Earth and quasi-post-apocalyptic cowboy Earth, and keeping an army of demons, I think, from breaking in and wrecking up the place. Matthew McConaughey's The Man in Black is an evil wizard who wants the demons to get in, so he's kidnapping children with the same psychic powers as the kid from The Shining. That's the only spoken out loud Stephen King mythology reference I could discern, so yeah, there it is. So he can use them to power a giant machine that shoots lasers at the Dark Tower to try to blow it up. But one of the kids has visions that leads him to post-apocalyptic cowboy universe where he teams up with Idris Elba as Roland the Gunslinger, a cowboy knight with magic guns made out of Excalibur who's looking to find and kill the Man in Black. Their quest together involves a boring fight with a cheesy-looking CGI monster, a shootout on cowboy Earth with random boring henchmen, a shootout on regular Earth with different boring henchmen, a lot of expository bullshit with Special Magic Kid that feels lifted right out of those Percy Jackson movies, and a final confrontation between Roland and the Man in Black that sincerely looks like it came from one of the goddamn Resident Evil films. I guess the upside to all of this is that Elba is really good in this kind of role, and that since the studio knows they've got a gigantic dud on their hands, they've hacked it down to pretty much just bare bones exposition, chases, and fight scenes, so it moves quick and it's over before it becomes truly tedious. On the downside, shit, where to begin? The story proper is completely generic. The whole thing pretty much looks, sounds, and feels like a dozen other Terminator meets Highlander meets whatever urban fantasy cheapies from the mid to late 90s. The world building and mythology, such as it's presented here anyway, feels like a derivative grab bag of story ideas sprinkled with random background references to iconic stuff from the various King books that have been turned into popular movies. McConaughey really just seems like he received no direction outside of please try and liven this bullshit up. The kid is annoying. The staging, design, and direction are all extremely by the numbers. We're never given any real reason to care what's going on or what might be going on later in sequels that this late summer dump job actually has the balls to pretend it still thinks is gonna happen. But worst of all, it's just barely still competent enough on a technical level that it can't even really be the fun kind of terrible movie either. It's just kind of there, being frustrating and bad with a tragic undercurrent of maybe having had the potential to be something at some point in some other timeline. 1 star, and that's me being real generous because the gunslinger stuff is kind of cool looking. That's about it.